everybody, this is James,
Marco,
Nabil,
and Mikey.
And this is Movie Pals podcast number 175. In today's episode, we'll be revisiting the Coppola Corner. Real shocker here. It's not Megalopolis yet, but we have a review of the new 4K remaster of One from the Heart, followed by a review of Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. So without further ado, let's jump into the Francis Ford Coppola Corner.
I'm just a kid that grew up in a vineyard in Modesto, California, who makes movies in San Francisco with my friend Francis. And we had some other, Saul Vance and some of the other people in San Francisco, but it's definitely a different world than I've actually never made a film in Hollywood as a director. And so it's a real honor to be here. It's a real honor, I tell you. And thank you so much. Thank you.
So if you are new to the podcast here, Nabil, Marco, and I, before Mikey joined officially, we did a review of every Francis Ford Coppola movie, all the way from Dementia 13, all the way to his last film, which was, I believe, Betwixt. So I want to say that's the last movie, right? Maybe it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
I think it was. Maybe it was.
Will be.
Well, yes. Megalopolis will be his last one. Well, I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't think he's got another one in him, boys. Just he's up there in age. So we actually reviewed this movie, One from the Heart, all the way back in August of 2022. So we're not quite at a 2-year mark on it, but we're pretty close.
Back when we were the Francis Ford Coppola podcast.
I think we still are, technically. I don't know if any other podcast has ever reviewed every single one of his movies.
Fucking movie friends.
I'm not sure, but the thing is, it's just one of those things where we went through basically all his filmography, everything he directed, went over a few odd bits and pieces, and One from the Heart was one that I remember stuck out a little bit to us. There's some uniqueness to it. It wasn't exactly our favorite film, but recently there was a 4K remaster he did of this movie, and he actually did a director's cut of it, I guess is why it's called One from the Heart Reprise. So this was actually released January 19, 2024 in select theaters, updated and restored version. As I said, it was titled One from the Heart Reprise. Just as a reminder, this movie was his movie he made right after Apocalypse Now, and it did not do well. It went double a budget. He did everything on sets. He was trying to go for a different kind of approach to filmmaking on this one. Nabil and Mark, I don't know if you guys remember or not, but the budget was because the sets and how it was filmed.
We learned that this is a trend for
this was the start. Like, his golden era is over at this point, and he did have some hits later on in the late 80s, mid 90s, but he really never regained that kind of
the prestige.
Prestige. Yeah, good call there. With his previous Godfather films, as well as Apocalypse Now. Godfather 3 did actually very well later on, but that was, truthfully, as we all know, he didn't really even want to make that movie at first, and then kind of was forced into doing it in a way just because he was so in debt. I think after this movie came out, he had to sell part of the winery. He has had to sell parts of his winery and rebuy and regain it back so many times at this point. So,
but he says he's got no regrets. So he's happy.
No regrets. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, he got to keep Zoetrope Studios. So
he did, in which this is a mainstay of how he wanted. He thought filmmaking might turn into this, but this movie I remember is very much kind of it's technically a musical. It's almost like a play, the way that it's shot. It's purposely done that way.
Yeah.
So, Mikey, I know this is probably brand new to you, but we'll get into it here in a sec. Let's jump into our review of One from the Heart Reprise.
We've been saying goodbye for years, honey. This time it's really goodbye. Bye, Hank.
She's gorgeous. She's looking at you.
I want to live.
Would you like to come hear me sing tonight? I love her!
Love is for suckers.
This one's for more.
So once again, this is 53% of Rotten Tomatoes. This is for the original one. I don't know if there's a new Rotten Tomatoes for this one. I couldn't find it. So just as a reminder, this is the romantic encounters of two separate lovers are played out against the backdrop of the Las Vegas Strip. Directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Written by Armin Bernstein, who also wrote 1999's The Hurricane, and Francis Ford Coppola. This version was, like I said, released January 19th, 2024. It's like theaters. It just came out about a week or two ago on 4K and digital. 4K disc and digital, by the way, sorry. This movie originally had a budget of $26 million, and as you guys know, only made $636,796 in the box office.
Jesus.
Did not do well at all.
Real passion project, guys.
Yeah, this is like we said though. Now that we have the full picture of every movie he's made, too, at least three of us, it doesn't really get better out of here. There's a few, like I said, there's a few that did well, but not so much. This stars Frederick Forrest as Hank, Terry Garr as Franny, Raul Julia as Ray, Natasha Kinski as Layla, Lainey Kazan as Maggie, and Harry Dean Stanton as Mo. So, Mikey, I'm going to start with you. I'm assuming you've never seen this movie beforehand, right?
Yes, this was a first-time watch for me. I went back and looked at the episodes you guys had, and it says that I watched it, but I usually skip the sections of movies that I have never seen. So I'm assuming I skipped it. So I have no idea going into this movie. I had no idea what the movie was about. I went in completely blind watching this movie. So yeah, very first time watching.
Okay. No, I mean, yeah. Marco, Nabil, and we all have seen this movie. Almost, like I said, it's been almost 2 years. So it's. I thought we watched it sooner, to tell you the truth.
That's what I'm saying. It feels like it was literally.
Feels like it.
Yeah. I remembered a lot of this movie still, but this version itself is actually the shortest running one out of all the versions. There's three versions of this movie. There's a theatrical version, there's a restored version, and then there is this version, which is the reprise, which is let's just say the final cut, right? So is clocks in about an hour 33. I think the original, it's 10 minutes shorter than the last version that came out. So I gotta ask that. I'll start with the guys first and then get to you, Mikey. Nabil, what did you think of this version of One from the Heart?
It felt tighter. Like it felt a bit more, I was able to follow it better. And I remember when we watched it before, I got a little like, what's the purpose of all these little things? Like I understood the plot, but it just seemed like it was all a little bit everywhere. And this one, I was able to just really follow through the whole thing. It did get a little choppy at the end again. And I was like, I don't know how this is. I never liked the ending. I recall not liking it before. And I don't like how it ended this time. But it did feel a much more straightforward plot that I was able to see through from start to finish. So it felt tighter than the last time.
Yeah, I will say, I looked up a lot of the arguments between Hank and Franny have been cut or shortened down because a lot of them kind of just dragged in the last version. Yeah. And I definitely noticed that this time too. What about you, Marco?
I was going to say it did feel smoother, especially at the beginning. I agree with Nabil and I agree with you, James. Yes. The arguments, I remember there being more. And
yes, that is what was cut down. So
I think that worked a lot more for me.
I do too, man. No,
especially with the end. I mean, where there's still some imperfections with these people. Yeah, but I think shortening them or just straight up cutting them out worked a lot better. The plot is very simple, but it was a little bit harder to follow with the original version. It really did put a lot focus on the relationship and viewing it from where these people are at the beginning and where they are at the end. So I say this one is a much better cut.
I'm going to jump in here. I agree with you guys too. This version, for some reason, it worked way better for me. Like, I remember before, I think we talked about how it was just like, man, these people just fucking hate each other. And there's all these scenes where I was like, I don't get this. And then this time around, it was a much tighter fit. And I don't know why, but it worked better for me too overall. The pacing, even just removing 10 minutes, maybe that's what this probably what it needed, to tell you the truth, because I remember there was some parts last time where I was just like, get over with it. Like, just keep going. I was like, what the hell, man? So
yeah, it was rough.
For the most part, it's still not a perfect movie, but I think this is definitely a better watch overall. and I was actually quite surprised by that. So, Mikey, first time watching it, so there's nothing you can compare it to. Obviously, what did you overall think of One from the Heart Reprise?
So it's actually kind of funny hearing you guys talk about how they chop some of the stuff out. Because for me personally, I thought the movie was okay overall. Marco said the plot's kind of simple. I agree with that. And I didn't know this movie was a musical, but it feels like a musical that doesn't have singing. So that was kind of strange for me. And the
what was it? Tom Waits, right?
Yeah.
He's just there. Just really, him and the other lady just narrating it, and just
Raul Julia and Lila kind of have singing parts too. Very short though.
Small stuff, yeah.
Yes, and by the way, Mike, just let you know, Tom Waits is a frequent Coppola collaborator, as the guys know as well. He is in almost all his movies at one point, I think. Even if it's just random bartender guy, like, oh, is that Tom Waits? So
yeah, he has a cameo of some sort.
Yeah.
But a lot of my things was I kind of wanted more from the characters, like more interactions between them, because I felt like the camera work and some of the sets were kind of getting in the way of like the relationships and some of the conversations. So hearing that was kind of what the original was kind of like, and you guys were like, I like this version better. I almost kind of want to go back and watch it just to see what the differences are.
You definitely don't.
Yeah, it sounds like I don't want to do that, but that's what I was longing for. Like when I watched it the first time, I was like, hey, like I just wanted a little bit more interactions with these people. But now hearing this, I guess I don't want to hear more interactions with these people.
Not worth it, Mikey.
Yeah, I won't. Yeah, I'll just leave it where it's at. I'll just watch this version.
Yeah, so I would say the things that worked for me again this time, I think Raul Julia once again as Ray is a standout in this movie.
That's part of the film. So,
yeah, he is just, man. Rewatching this again now, I just remembered. I was like, I really like Raul Julia's performance in this movie, man.
He's amazing. And
he's basically Marco.
The main reason.
You know.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, what the fuck am I doing in this movie? I kept thinking, you know what? I'm excited to watch Raul Julia again because really, when we think of this movie, I think of him. Really,
I think of him too. I actually think he's the scene stealer in every scene.
Yes,
and it's just I was laughing this time around. I don't remember laughing last time. I don't know if I watched it and I was just like tired. But this time around, I loved his scenes, especially where it turns out he's the waiter. Oh, by the way, we do full spoilers on this for the most part. We don't really hold back on anything on these ones, guys. No, just as a heads up. But there's a scene where he's in the restaurant and you find out he's the waiter, and then he just sits down and he's just hear the food. And I was chuckling. I was like, "This is silly. Why do I like this?" And then the boss
hear the people at the next table is like, "That's my club sandwich," and like, "Is that my food? Where are my waffles?"
Those are my waffles. Yeah, I heard the waffles too. Like, yeah. He's like, "Here you go. We got plenty." And then I was like, "Oh, he's just sitting down. He's just trying to get at her."
But that's what I'm talking about, though, because that scene has a lot of dialogue and it shows a little bit of interaction between not only the main characters, but even some side characters. Like the owner of the restaurant's getting like angry and like showing some emotion and stuff. I don't get that throughout the rest of the movie. There's some scenes like that, but there's really not a lot of that kind of stuff in the movie.
That's part of the reason why, Mike, you were saying that it's not worth seeing the other version, because the scenes that you did enjoy, like the interactions between Franny and Ray, those were the ones that had the most character development.
Yeah.
The arguments between like Hank and Franny, they were just prolonged arguments, and we got lost into the reason why they were even angry with each other. They're like, okay, so like, what do we
exactly
move on? So that's why when we're comparing this, I can tell you that the arguments here, the way they're interacting with each other between Hank and Franny, they're just, it's just more to the point. Like, okay, we get it. They're upset about something. She talks about the reason why, and each time you have this interaction, we've moved a little forward. Whereas before, it just kept going, and we're like, cool. Like, what are we doing here? What's the point of this? You know,
I agree.
Piggybacking on that, omitting those arguments left room for some hope in that relationship, as dysfunctional as it was.
Sure. And I noticed that this time around compared to last time.
Yeah, previously it left like zero hope. Like you're just like, oh God, they should
this is over
together. We even brought it up, like, should they even stay together? Like, this is not making any fucking sense, man.
Yeah.
But this time around, it's just a tighter thing, Mike. Because before the arguments, like, Nabil, just piggyback on Nabil, is like, yeah, we get the point. And then, like, would you like 2 more minutes of that for no reason? Just to like really nail in the point. Like, no, it doesn't move it doesn't move the plot forward into any kind of a any kind of possibility, like Marco was saying, of any hope for the two. So
Marco mentioned the ending being a little better because of this here too. I could see how those prolonged things that you guys are talking about could kind of hurt the ending as well.
Yeah, so no, definitely. And the movie, it's like we said, it's far from perfect, but it's really, like I said, it's almost shot like a play in a way. The way that the sets are really, some of them are really strange. It's very apparent they're on sound stages. The whole thing was shot on, I believe it says Zoetrope sound stages, like 90%, right? And I don't know, for some reason, it worked for me this time too. I think we talked about it last time. I like the sets, actually. The sets are a very unique kind of feeling to it all, especially because you compare it. I think it's because his previous film, it was such a nightmare to film. Apocalypse Now, obviously, he shot it a lot on out in the location. I don't know where the fuck. I don't think it was Vietnam, but it was somewhere out there, and there was hurricanes, and there was people dying on set almost, and this brings it back a bit to like I have more control over it, but obviously the budget, you can tell because they're sets, so sets cost money. There's very few digital things added in here, so I still like the look of it all. I even like when they're walking down the street of the Vegas set, and then there's people walking around, and it's just night. I love movies that are set at nighttime like this. It's just hits the spot for me, and I like that. And I don't know, this time around the movie just worked better for me overall. I know I just keep saying that, but like with Hank and the girl that he's going off with, and then Franny and Ray, and they're both diverting off in the plot, and they're trying something new because they don't think, because Hank wants to just stay, fix up their house, just live life there, but Franny she wants to go out, she wants to explore the world, and she sees that in Ray, right? And that's how it kind of triggers. And I don't know, this time around it worked out. So that's all. Anything else stand up for you guys?
No, but I'm not really. I just mentioned this last time, but it really it stood out more this time. It really did kind of have sort of a like pre-La La Land look to it. It's like a precursor to that look. And I kept thinking that, especially with the sets and how they looked, it gave it that sort of vibe, even down to what little musical numbers we had. It sort of had that look to it, and I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's what I liked about the film. That was one of the redeeming things of the film for me the last time, was the soundstage and the look of it. I know you guys were a little thrown off at the time. It didn't feel like it was working with everything else, but I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed it just as much now. I actually liked even more the Las Vegas strip scene, the dance scene that they were doing.
I still
more
want
now than the last time. That was a great.
Because it also looks better now too, by the way.
Yeah, oh yeah, and it does actually look. It pops more. I don't know if he changed a little bit with the coloring as well, but it looks a little sharper.
Could have been for the remaster as well, I'm thinking. Yeah. And one thing, it's inspirational. I agree with you too, Marco, on the La La Land comparisons to it. Just as a heads up, the DP of Joker 2, I don't know if you guys looked this up or not, Lawrence Sher actually said he was inspired when filming Joker 2 by this movie specifically. So that's something to look forward to. So apparently Joker 2 is going to have a feel of One from the Heart. So he was deeply inspired by this movie from the visuals. I
can totally see that. Wow, I can totally see that. Yes. Damn.
So we're just trying to keep it relevant here for the upcoming stuff. So I don't know if we can come back to that when it drops in, I think, October, November, right? So I
think we should definitely mention that.
So Mikey, as a first time, did the look of it all for you throw you off a bit? It is quite different. That's why.
Early on, I kind of caught on that this was kind of like a play/musical, so it didn't bother me as much as it seemed like you guys did when you initially reviewed it. But I actually liked the sets. I thought they were really cool looking. The colors really popped, especially the night scene. You guys mentioned it already. They were out like on the streets. It's night. The lights are in the background just popping. They had the light up floor, even though it's on the street. It kind of made no sense, but it would look cool still. The circus junkyard area that they were in was like the same thing. Like super crazy.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but it looked really cool. Like, yeah, it's a set, and I can tell it's a set, but it didn't bother me that it was a set. So yeah, I liked it, the way everything looked in this movie. That's one of my.
The thing is, he's not hiding. He's not hiding it that it's a set. It's supposed to be pretty obvious that these are sets, and even the street their house is on. Like technically, that's just a backdrop at the end to make it look like it goes out further. Because nobody ever can go past that little part at the end. They always have to like cut right. And like, oh yeah, I gotta go to the right side now. You know.
Well, also, I mean, they even have the curtains at the end, right? Like when the movie ends, they have like a fake curtains that come down and like close. So it's like they're hiding it. They're wanting it to be that way.
We originally even talked. It's Francis Ford Coppola, George Lucas are really great friends, and it seems the Zoetrope kind of motto back in the day, as Marco Neville probably recalls, they were always trying to try new things. They didn't want to just keep doing traditional film, and that's George obviously went off, did a bunch of digital, and he might have even gone off a little bit too far on the edge on that one, obviously. But this was very like a George Lucas-esque kind of feel to it all, of trying new things, and like
if you look a little more to the left, you can see a Death Star. Sorry, I put it edit there. That's
Francis, what if we pull a little Ewok right here? A little Ewok. Just in the back.
They like to dance. Just let them dance.
Yeah, they celebrated when the destruction of the second Death Star
with the torches, the dancing, the fireworks in the background.
They use the helmets as a drum set. So it's a drum set. But yeah, so I mean, things that don't work. Obviously, character development is still pretty. It's better in this one, but it's still probably the weakest point of this one, like you're saying, Mikey. But anything else not work out for you guys overall?
I really hate that ending that she comes back to.
I really hate that. So what do you hate about the ending? The fact that he goes back?
They're arguing. There's so many like red flags between the both of them. They just don't like each other, and there doesn't seem to be really any love. It's just, they even admit it's been 5 years, just a long time with each other. And then she's just like, I just want to be back with you. I'm like, no, you wouldn't. This is like he frames it like it's like a poetic love story. Like they find that love finds each other some way, but it's not. It's like a tragic thing that they're stuck into a spiral that they're never going to get out of. And it's like, this is terrible.
That's true though, but maybe that's a realistic ending to it though, Mary.
Yes, James mentioned something that really made me think, and is like a light bulb moment, that Joker 2 is going to be inspired by this, and that makes me think of that realism that James mentioned too. Is although we don't like it, Nabil, we don't like it, and I think that's the point. I think we're not supposed to like it. It's also realistic. They are inherently wrong for each other, but they are so stuck in their ways and so willing to settle that they just stick together. And like we've come across people who are in those types of relationships where you're like, you should really, leave dude, you should leave chick, and they don't, and they just stay like that for life. And I think maybe that was the point. And that's the only way I could justify it, because otherwise I 100% agree with the bill. I was just like, it's just that's the only thing I really don't like about the movie, is just that ending.
But she was on the plane. The gate was departed. Like she was gone.
There's no way they were able to get off things.
Okay? I was crossing my fingers that this was the reprise. I was like, did he change it? Does she end up leaving in this version? I'm like, please tell me there's an alternate fucking cut and he included in this. And I almost thought, because I totally forgot that it looks like she does leave in the original too. And I was like, holy shit, he changed it. And then I was like, oh shit, no, he didn't. Yeah.
I think it's like it's like people don't always belong, but maybe the way, if you're looking at a more positive view, it's like they both tried out someone new and they realize that, it's not for them. And they're going back, and for in this scenario, it's more like Franny is giving Hank a chance. We don't know what's going to happen afterwards. Obviously, this probably would not end well. Obviously,
again. Yeah.
So, but this is where they're like, okay, I'm back, and like it might be like, oh, it's like they really do have true love or something, but maybe not. I don't know. It's up for discussion, but I agree with you guys. It's definitely where two people that probably should just call it quits, but they go back together.
Well, they're in that mindset, right? Of I'm comfortable in this relationship. And then they both try something new. And it's like, am I going to continue living this way? Or is it going to basically just settle down to the same thing as I'm in right now? So you have all these thoughts in their heads and you don't know. I mean, like this movie doesn't tell you a lot of the stuff, kind of leaves it up to you. But in terms of how their mindsets are, they're just like, hey, let me just stick with what I'm comfortable with instead of trying something new that I'm not sure how it's going to come out to. And a lot of us, whether we want to say it or not, we probably would make a lot of decisions like that. It's like, hey, I know what this is. I don't know what this is. Let me stick with what I'm comfortable with. And I feel like that's how the characters felt as well at the end.
Yeah, just like Michael said. Yeah, definitely. I agree with you guys, since Hank tries out some dirty, and then, Frank tries out a Hispanic young man that can sing and dance quite well, It's Raul Julia, guys.
I mean, I was used for Raul Julia.
Bison.
He was M. Bison, yes.
Dude, Raul Julia is fucking great, dude. He is great.
He's the best part of the film. I like Terry Garr a little bit more in this one, too.
I did too.
She was a better character with what he made the changes around.
Then Harry Dean Stanton, I remember, hit a
Mo.
Yeah, who just passed away recently, I think about a year ago too. So, it's just this is that friend that like, hey, kind of fucked up, but I'll pick you up.
He's a dirtbag of a friend, but he's still a good friend.
He still tells this boy, "I love you," though, man. Even though I was hanging out with your chick.
He's more than once. Kind of wild, bro. Because like you said, like there's signs that even before they've been cheating on each other and all this stuff, and it's just this is the furthest out they've gone, where they're like, okay, well then we're done, and I'm gonna do this and blah blah, and and even when Frank's out and he sees the chick, and Mo's like, "You gonna talk to her?"
Sadly, Hank and his chick are sadly destined to do this repetitive cycle over and over again. Because you're right. They've been down this road before. Terry, of course, kissing Mo, and then Hank going off with some tall blonde. So yeah, that's kind of sad and revealing at the same time.
Yeah. So what did you guys think? Like you said, 4K remaster of this one. I know, Mike, you have nothing to compare it to, but Mark and Nabil, first for you guys, what did you guys, like we talked about, the colors do pop out a lot better. I don't think it's a perfect transfer. It's an older film, but it looked a lot better than I remember, man.
Agreed. Yeah, it looked sharper. The colors were better. I felt more into, and maybe that's like what you guys were saying about the soundstage and like liking the musical aspect of it. I felt more immersed in it because of how it looks now compared to before. Like it really all works together.
Truthfully, I think he went back and cleaned up some stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
There were some cleanups, like you said, James. It wasn't perfect, but like Nabil said, it does look great. Some scenes that really pop out for me are definitely the scene where Terry and Ray are in that lounge room and he's playing the piano. It just looks so much better, cleaned up.
Better.
So much crispier.
It was too dark before. It was way too dark before, I remember.
Absolutely. And then also the dance ensemble in the middle of the strip. I think we talked about it earlier. That really popped out a lot more. It seemed cleaned up. It felt like such a chaotic dance that worked well. And then lastly is the scene where Hank is like doing his little orchestra thing at the junkyard. That scene looked a lot better.
I agree too.
Yeah.
Yep. That one stood out to me.
Also, like that scene, I think it looked like the transition was much better. The scene where they first get into the argument, where Franny is at Maggie's house, her friend, and Hank is talking to Mo, and they have that kind of like you're in the room with Mo and Hank, but you see in the background projected, it
looked terrible before, right?
Yeah, it looked crappy, but this one really actually.
That's what I'm saying. I think he fixed that because that was probably some digital effects he did with these. I'm assuming, or something. I don't know what he did, but that scene looks way better because I don't remember looking that smooth. So, yeah. Mikey, first time watching for you. What did you think overall quality of this? I believe you watched it on disc, right?
Yeah, I bought it on 4K Blu-ray. I mean, obviously, I don't have anywhere to compare it to the old one. I haven't seen it, but I thought the colors popped, like you guys were saying. So I kind of echo everything you guys already said. I mean, the picture looked pretty good to me. Looked pretty clean. The colors were really vibrant. Popped off the screen pretty well. I thought overall it was a pretty good copy. Pretty good conversion.
Cool. Let's get into the ratings, guys, and then we can end it out here. What did you guys overall want? What would you rate it overall, and would you recommend it? I'll start with you, Nabil.
Last time I gave it 2 stars. This one I'm bumping up a little bit to 2.5 stars, and I still recommend the film. I wouldn't say I would have last time, but watching it in this version, I think this is a worthy film to watch if you're interested in Coppola's past work.
What about you, Marco?
I can't remember what I gave it last time, but I'm going to give it 3 stars this time. I think Raul Julia is the scene stealer and 100% worth watching in this film. I think that the new edits do improve Franny's character a little bit more. Not so much Hank's, but it kind of evens it out a little bit, but not too much. And yeah, man, it looks beautiful in 4K for what they could do.
Awesome. Mikey?
I gave it 3 stars, and I would say, hey, you know what? If you made it through this podcast and you still are interested in the movie, go ahead and watch it. There's nothing to lose, really, right? I mean, I thought it was a decent movie. It wasn't terrible. So yeah, I would definitely say go ahead and give it a chance. See what you like.
Yeah, my original rating, I also gave it 2 stars. I'm going to give this one a 3, actually, still. I think before I even said, like, I think it's worth watching just for Raul Julia alone, and I think, once again, this is a high recommendation. Even though it's only a 3 out of 5, I still think it's actually a movie that I probably will catch again. If you're even remotely interested in a pretty unique musical from Francis Ford Coppola, this is definitely one I would recommend. So, with that being said, let's move on to our main review of Furiosa and Mad Max Saga.
Furiosa! We've come too far.
As a child, my world was forever changed. My mother was magnificent. And he took it all from me.
Who do we have here?
She's from a place of abundance.
This is our destiny.
My childhood. My mother. I want them back. I want them back.
Whatever you have to do, however long it takes, promise you'll find your way home. Protect the green place.
It's time to take what's rightfully ours. Ready? Steady!
Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. Film sitting currently at a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. The premise? Snatched. From the green place of many mothers, young Furiosa falls into the hands of a great biker horde led by the warlord Dementus. Sweeping through the wasteland, they come across a citadel presided over by Immortan Joe. As the two tyrants fight for dominance, Furiosa soon finds herself in a non-stop battle to make her way home. This film was directed by George Miller, who also directed, of course, the other Mad Max films, and Babe, Pig in the City in 98, and Happy Feet in 2006, and more recently, 3,000 Years of Longing in 2022. This was also written by George Miller, as well as Nick Lathoris, who did Mad Max Fury Road. And this film was released currently in theaters on May 24th. This stars Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa, Alila Brown as young Furiosa, Chris Hemsworth as Dr. Dementus, Tom Perk as Praetorian Jack, Laiki Hilm as Immortan Joe, George Shevstov as the History Man, John Howard, the People Eater, Angus Sampson as the Organic Mechanic, Nathan Jones as Rictus Erectus, Josh Hellman as Scrotus, Charlie Frazier as Mary Jepisa, who is also Furiosa's mother. So, let's hear about our thoughts on this film. I'm going to start with you, Mikey. What did you think about this film overall?
I thought it was a great movie. I mean, it has the same setting as Fury Road, but it does enough to kind of separate and do its own thing. The action was superb, as expected from the previous version, and the acting was really well done by everybody in the cast, especially Hemsworth. I really enjoyed his character and how he brought it in, but overall, everybody did great.
What about you, James? What were your thoughts?
I had a blast watching this. We actually tried to watch it on Thursday, me and Mikey, and then the IMAX was down, and we had to make some adjustments there to go see this movie still. So we caught it really early on a Saturday morning, actually, and had a lot of fun. A lot of action, a lot of cool sequences. I like the story of Furiosa, how it leads up into Fury Road. I thought it was very well done. I kind of edged my seat the whole time. I had a lot of fun. Non-stop action. So,
and what about you, Marco?
Movie sucked.
What do you think about the film? The movie sucks.
Just kidding, dude. Fuck no, movie's fucking fantastic, man. I agree with everything Mikey and James said. I was also on the edge of my seat the whole fucking movie. I think Anya Taylor-Joy does amazing as Furiosa. She's fucking one of the greats. I think Hemsworth absolutely kills it as Dementis. It's great to see him, in this type of role as a villain. And I liked the small characters too, the side characters like Praetorian Jack. I liked, even though Immortan Joe doesn't really do much, I like the dude that they got to play him because the original actor passed away, R.I.P. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the story is very well. It's connected to Fury Road, but it's really more character driven in this versus action and sequence driven. The characters get room to breathe and to grow and to get fleshed out. And damn, those action sequences, those panoramic shots of the fucking cars, just doing like a long turn. Like, it's just, George Miller knows what he's doing, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same. I enjoyed the film. I feel exactly the same. I enjoyed the film. It was the film that I was looking most forward to this year because of how much I was surprised I enjoyed Furiosa when it came out. Or Fury Road, I'm sorry, when it came out. That I was hoping to see the same quality, and for the most part, I was there with it. I liked the story. I liked the visuals, especially being in the theater, watching the big wide shots, and they actually had a variety of things that were happening in the driving scenes that was different from the last one, which we'll talk about a bit more, which I really enjoyed. They added a little bit more into that. So between that and then the whole story of Furiosa from start to finish, I thought it was just a really well put together film. So with that, let's talk a little bit more about the characters, because everybody kind of touched on a lot of different characters that they like. I'm going to go back to you, Marco. You had brought up Dementis and Chris Hemsworth. So what stood out with you with Dementis in this film?
He was a very complex character / villain. He wasn't necessarily one dimensional, though he comes off like that in the trailers, and maybe up front he does, but he himself gets fleshed out throughout the movie. You see his stages of evolution from just a low-key biker gang leader, basically, with ambition, and slowly you get to hear his story unravel on what has happened to him in his past, what turned him in this way. And in some shape or form, he's almost like an opposite of Furiosa as far as like where their characters go in this story. And I like that. I like that he wasn't just, there for, comedic relief or just for something for Furiosa to fight. They give his villainous character a true purpose, and Hemsworth brings it to life like flawlessly.
Yeah, James, what about you? Any other thoughts to add to that?
Yeah, I liked his character because he's so over the top at times too, and he changes throughout the film. Like at the first, it seems like he has it all under control, and then he goes to where the Citadel is, and he tries to take it over, and then he soon realizes that he's clearly outmatched, and he does something in the film where he takes over one of the I guess what would you call it? I guess it's the gas town. He takes over the gas town. Citadel's the main one. It's one of the main other Citadels, I guess, right? But time passes, and it just points out that he's a total fraud. He's terrible at what he's doing, and I like that. It shows like he's way in over his head, and just his physical presence itself. You've seen still in every scene as well. I really enjoyed his performance. He was a cool bad guy to like. I guess is one of those kind of guys. So
yeah. I agree. I like that. It looks like when you first see him, he seems like he's got everything together, and he's got this clan. And what were the bikers called? The War Hogs or something? That the little biker gang that was
Dementors or something. I forgot what it was.
But they were. Yeah, they were all kind of there with him, but they weren't. They were a part of a different faction, but he kind of oversaw everything. And then as you go through, you can see, like you said, James, like he was in over his head. He starts losing his grip on and control on everything, and he's definitely flawed.
Desperate.
Yeah, and desperate and trying to just hold on to whatever he can, and he thinks he's leaning in the right way to like whatever darkness that he's trying to go into because he's suffered as well. He's got his own history, but at the same time, you feel for him, but also you don't feel you're like he's the bad guy for sure.
Yeah.
But it's just it's cool to see a villain like that have an arc all the way through of just where he starts from and where he goes to, and kind of seeing why because of the decisions he makes. So that it was very fascinating to see that come on screen. And go ahead, Marco.
His cape has an arc. You know, it keeps changing color throughout it to show like him going deeper and deeper into the darkness and taking on more of a villainous role.
That's what I was going to pivot to, saying like for a film that doesn't actually have a lot of dialogue, a lot of cues are told visually, and that was like one good one where he has this white cape and it kind of goes bloodstained red.
It's a parachute, right?
Yeah, it's a parachute that he uses as a cape.
Yeah,
which is all kind of works in it. Mikey, let me ask you too. So we were talking about Dementis, but what about Furiosa? What did you think about her character? I know we get a mix of different people playing Furiosa in this film. How did you think her character was portrayed here?
Yeah, I was actually surprised how long Anya Taylor-Joy is not in the movie. I mean, it goes on a pretty decent amount of time, and then when you do get her, she's not talking. Like for the first part, you're seeing her.
Yeah.
So I think you know, as I say that out loud, it can be kind of jarring when you say it that way, but it still works. You know, they still have things that they do, especially you know, Anya Taylor-Joy. Like her eyes are very expressive, and then the makeup they use. It actually insinuates that a little bit more, so it even makes it more prominent as like how she can like show emotions and stuff with her just a look, and it's done so well. It's very vibrant as far as like how things happen, even though this world is kind of crazy and everything like that. It's still everything just works with how she's doing things, and then from the choices that she makes throughout the movie, you can kind of see how this version of Furiosa becomes a Charlize Theron version that we see in Fury Road. I feel like there's with the events that happen with Dementis, and I'm sure we'll get into some of that stuff in the spoilers too. I don't want to go too far into that, but those events that happen, everything that happens in this movie, you can kind of see mold her to how she is later on and the Furiosa that we already know. So it's just really told very well. Her story is just told in a very different manner, but it works for what the movie is.
Yeah, and very often you see a film where they do these like prequels and you're like, oh, okay, they're filling in these gaps to do something. But I feel like in this film, it really does make you feel connected to where you see her in Fury Road and what it took to get her there. Like this seems to really go in without feeling like you have to add more depth into it or add more, like it's just or it feels organic to it. James, what were your thoughts on Furiosa? Do you have anything else?
It was great. I think the young lady, Elila Brown, was really good too. She's in almost half the film at that point, and it just leads really well into, you know, with the stages where she's like the young one, teenager, then goes into Anya Taylor-Joy's version, and Anya Taylor-Joy did great though too. So you can really tell she was in, you know, just became that character. And even though she doesn't talk much in this one, you know, that's a George Miller kind of thing with these movies. It worked for me. I thought it was kind of one thing that didn't work though. Like Mikey knows because I mentioned it. It's funny near the end where she becomes one of the Imperators, right? And she's working with Praetorian Jack, and just no one notices like how good looking Furiosa is compared to everybody else. And I even told Mike at one point, I'm like, do they not realize this is the hottest person in the entire wasteland? Like, okay, we're just gonna, all right, she's just part of the crew, I guess. Like, okay. I thought that was kind of funny. And that's just a side note, obviously, but it was just, I just noticed that. I was like, no one knows she got good teeth? No one? Okay, cool. You're gonna roll with it. But that character, her arc throughout the film, I thought was great. And I thought it worked. I thought it worked really well. So
yeah, and I think like to your point about Elila Brown, she really does a good job of like portraying the levels of her from that age, because not to go into anything specific for spoilers, but like in the beginning where an event happens that kind of gets her to Dementis, she has a chance to run away like she's supposed to, but she doesn't and comes back, and that's something where she could have just been following what she was told, but as a child trying to navigate the situation, she's like, no, I need to go back, and it ends up setting her up to the the events that end up going through this film. So that was just from that level, and then making the decision to go from one person to the next later on, like that whole thing. Really, she does a good job of portraying, a way of making the most of the circumstance based off of where she's at in her circumstance. So, Marco, do you have any other thoughts you wanted to share on Furiosa?
Just like what you mentioned there, as a child, Furiosa learns to read the situation better and better. Like she just has a choice of, in that moment being told, doing what she was told, or being strong and doing like the right thing or trying to do the right thing. And it's almost like a mirror of an event that happens later with Praetorian Jack, where she almost has the same choice to leave or to go back and do the right thing. And she learns from that moment, learns from her mistakes. And I like that. You see that growth, like everything that you see her do from a child until her younger years, you see has like a reason and a purpose and has a call back to each other. And both actors did a phenomenal job of both like acting with their face and through their actions as well, showing how cunning she is as a child. Like when she shaves off her hair and makes a fake wig in order to escape someone who's going to hurt her, down to later on pretending to be a guy, which I guess, she's it's Anya Taylor-Joy. She's very beautiful, but I guess we were supposed to like believe that her like putting all that shit on her face and looking dirty was supposed to make her, fit in. Still though,
I was like, okay, sure.
It just shows that she's already had this at a young age and just sort of improves it more and becomes like the fierce warrior of the wasteland that she's meant to be in Fury Road. It's an incredible thing to see, especially with such little dialogue spoken. It's just all done through actions, and it's acted and played out so well.
And James, were there any other characters? I know we've talked a few already here, but any other characters that you wanted to touch on that really stood out for you?
Yeah, there's two. I would say Furiosa's mom, played by Charlie Fraser. She's like not very well known, by the way. She's a model and absolutely gorgeous, by the way. That's the first thing I noticed. I was like, oh my god, she's like super fucking pretty. Apparently she was in the Sydney Sweeney romantic comedy that just came out. That's her first movie. Yeah. So this is her second film. Yeah, she's in that movie. This is her second film, and I thought she's only in the movie for 30 minutes or so, but I thought she stood out great. It was just
it was a good scene.
Dude, every scene just trying to get her daughter back, and it's intense the whole time up until the end. And I thought she was great in that one. And then the one I would probably bring up is Praetorian Jack, who's basically Mad Max, I guess, technically. But
right? That's what I thought about. Is that just
I felt like in a way I was like, man, I bet this was supposed to be maybe early on, like who knows? But I thought he was great too. I don't know. I've never seen Tom Perkin anything, but it's cool because he's like this badass that has done all these runs for Morton Joe, and he's well known, and he realizes early on who Furiosa really is, and he takes her under his wing. And then there's a romance that buds between them, and it's something where it's never overdone to the point. But I actually liked his character quite a bit. He reminded me of kind of like a Han Solo character, if that makes sense. And it's just I thought he was great too. So
I agree. I agree with the Praetorian Jack thing. I think it kind of helps kind of see why she's able to trust Max later in Fury Road. I think it's kind of like maybe he reminded her of Praetorian Jack in some weird way. Yeah, exactly. The same jacket. They're basically the same jacket, but yeah. But I think that's why it was just sort of like, oh shit, like she's like, you remind me of someone I used to know, probably sort of thing.
Go chase on.
Yeah, basically. Other character that stood out for me also is I know he's not on screen a lot, and Morton Joe, man, really, it's those fucking eyes, dude. When Dementis is like talking to him, explaining his plan, and it just pans to Morton Joe, and he's just fucking dead staring at him, like, who the fuck is this clown? It just fucking it killed me every fucking time.
Mike, anybody on your end?
Yeah, I didn't. It's not really a character that's like acting or like it's not like a main character or anything like that. I just wanted to say that Octoboss just looked really badass he had like super cool visuals. He had like horns on his back, and
Yeah.
he had like that kite thing that was like while he was in the air, it was like an octopus floating around. It just was a really cool like clan leader, I guess, is how I'll say it. He just had really cool visuals as all. So I just want to kind of mention him. He was kind of cool.
I also liked seeing the brothers Rectus and Scrotus together. Like they're a little dynamic, and obviously the names are hilarious, but also just them interacting with each other throughout the film. Each moment you can tell that Scrotus is just trying to take charge, and Erectus is just an idiot, and they are both just bumbling fools, and it adds a little bit of comic relief when they're interacting.
Scrotus is not in Fury Road though, right?
No, he's not.
No. He's in
I
the
think
video
he's
game.
he's in the game from what I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So which takes place in between it.
Somewhere in between. Yeah. So we I don't know how much we want to talk about that. This isn't going to go into spoilers, but we can talk a little bit about the plot. Marco, what did you think about this story? I know we touched on already how we felt about the Furiosa's journey from start to finish and how we feel like it works, but was there anything specific in the plot outside of that or even with that you want to touch on that you think really helped make this film good?
I like the expansion of the wasteland and seeing more of it. The whole wasteland itself is like a character, which is cool. Like it's like a living, breathing, post-apocalyptic society. You have the Citadel, you have Gastown, you have Bullet Town, and throughout all of Fury Road, you just from my memory, you just only know the Citadel and that's it, and maybe like some little outskirt posts here and there. But it's kind of cool. It was sort of reminiscent of the Road Warrior, the second movie in the Mad Max series.
That's what I felt.
It kind of reminded me of that. It just you see the interconnectivity between these two, and you see just how much Immortan Joe controls in this area of the wasteland, and really what's at stake as well too. Specifically for Furiosa, if and when they find where she comes from, which we all know the outcome of that. I'm not going to spoil it here, but it really adds more to the stakes and what she is up against. She's essentially up against like a mini empire, and in the middle of all that is a freaking charlatan opportunist who essentially made her who she is to a point, and she's gonna have to juggle all these things while trying to survive the wasteland. I liked how complex but easy that is to follow in this entire story.
Yeah. And let me ask you, Mikey, in regards to what the story is like, this is a prequel. Is this something that you actually, I don't know if you were looking forward to seeing this film in general, or do you think this was a great thing to add to the Mad Max lore, or would you have preferred to see something that was set more in the future?
Now, if you had asked me that right now, I'm going to say that it worked, right? So in terms of like the prequel, it worked. They did a great job on it. Before watching the movie, though, I didn't think it really needed a Furiosa prequel movie. I didn't actually think it needed a sequel either, because of like most of the main characters are gone at the end of Fury Road. So I felt like it was just a nice movie. Not every movie needs a sequel or a prequel to succeed, or have like a whole universe or whatever you want to call it, right? I didn't think Fury Road needed anything else to add to it. That being said, now that I've seen this movie, this movie has a different, it's still, Mad Max, in that world, but it's got a different vibe. And they did a great job kind of connecting the two together. And I would say, hey, I'm happy that this movie exists. I just think, beforehand, maybe, and that's some perception that people have, is really, did we need this movie or not? I didn't think we did before I watched it, but now that I've seen it, I do think we did actually need it. It expands the world, like Marco was saying a moment ago. It expands not only the characters, but the actual physical world as well. So I think that's a good job.
It seems like there was a story worth telling, even though maybe it didn't seem like it at first from watching Fury Road.
Yeah, exactly.
And on that, James, did you feel that there was anything else, like as far as the themes to this film, or anything that really stood out to you that helped kind of paint the picture of this the wasteland?
Yeah, it's definitely survival and revenge, I think, two of the main themes, and characters arcs, what they'll go through to get that by the end. But on the thoughts of the prequel or sequel, by the way, something I do want to mention is I'm almost opposite of Mikey now, just because of what I know now, right? And how well this movie has done, because we may not get any more of these from the look of it. And although it was something to fill in for the Furiosa character, I don't know if it was 100% needed. Although it did come out obviously fucking great. I think it's a great movie. I almost would have wanted to see what happened after and to see if they're going to keep going with it, and not saying it has to be Mad Max. We could have done Furiosa afterwards and progress it and see what happens after. And even though characters are dead from there's plenty of other things going around in this place. So these aren't just the only places, I'm assuming. So, but I'm almost like 50-50 on it because I would love to see another Mad Max movie, but I don't think we're going to get another one.
Well, and to add a little bit to what happens after Fury Road, like a little bit of spoiler here, but Furiosa, is taking charge of the Citadel, and there's still Bullet Town and Gas Town that she has to contend with. So, what is that? And like we get to see them in this film, but what does that look like in the future now that she's running that? Especially considering what we see happens with the Mentis having to run something like that. So it would be. I agree. There probably is more story to be told, even just Furiosa in the future, and maybe that's where we want to go with this story. I don't know. We can talk more about that, but
supposedly there is a sequel planned for Furiosa, like that. George
that
Miller.
Was before this weekend.
Whether that's going to happen or not, we don't know. But and I do know that technically this movie was supposed to come out before Fury Road because he had it planned back in the 80s. Both of these concepts he wanted to make happen, but.
Really?
Technology and everything, I guess shit happened, but eventually technically this was supposed to lead into Fury Road and that didn't happen, and then eventually they ended up doing Fury Road first and then this one after. But yeah,
I guess we'll have to see, or maybe we won't. We'll find out in 10 years. Yeah.
We don't got 10 years. George Miller's 79, so yeah. I'm gonna say right now it's gotta happen soon. And we'll get into spoilers, but I got an inkling this is the last time. So
yeah. All right, so let's talk about our ratings for the film, and then we'll jump into the spoilers. I'm going to start with you, James. What would you give this out of 5 stars?
I'm giving this one a 4.5 stars. I think it was great. It not as good as Fury Road. I'm going to tell you that right now. And Mikey and I talked about it previously. It's not as epic with the action sequences, and it's there's visibly some more CGI use in this one. It's a little more obvious, I think. But still, if you liked Fury Road, I would highly recommend it. Please go out and see it in theaters, for the love of God. Because it's a theater movie. You guys hear me say that all the time. It's a really good theater movie. This is a absolutely great theater movie, and I think it will take away if you wait to watch this on your goddamn phone or some shit at home. Just go out and see it.
On the toilet, it's just enjoying it.
Yeah, or casually in your bed before sleep. Yeah, I mean, that'd be weird. But yeah.
How about you, Mikey? How many stars would you give this?
I also gave this 4.5, but please go see it in the theaters. I mean, it's truly is one of those movies that's going to be a different experience. Don't watch it on your phone.
Yeah. And Marco?
Man, we're going for the trifecta right now. 4.5 stars, baby. This movie's fucking great, man. It's a great compliment to Fury Road. I think it's up there with where Fury Road focuses on the action set pieces. This one focuses more on the characters and their story arcs with still some great action set pieces, some shoddy CGI, but whatever. Yes, go see it in theaters. Please go see a matinee showing. Tell your friends, tell your cousins, tell your family members, anyone to go see this movie. Please, it really needs the support.
Yeah, I echo everything. I also give it a 4.5 stars. So this is a full consensus from the movie pals.
Completed the square there.
Yeah.
Is it the first time we're all the same?
Not sure yet.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. Maybe.
I think we did one before.
No. We're fully squared, baby.
But I think we're all in agreement that you should go to the theaters. If you haven't watched this film yet, you need to go watch it over there. Give it the love that it needs. This world that George Miller has kind of helped expand upon in the last 2 films, this film and the last one, has really brought in more options for a wider story to be told, and not just with Mad Max, but in other areas too. And this only happens if you actually go and watch this film. So go to the theater. You're going to miss out if you decide to watch it at home later. And with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into spoilers. If you have not seen the film yet and you want to prevent yourself from doing it, first, go to the theater, then come back and listen in so you can hear our thoughts on some of the more specific plot points of the film. And And we're going to go into the first thing with spoilers, and that is what happens to Praetorian Jack. And also I don't know, was it a red herring? I feel like it was kind of like meh on how Furiosa actually loses her arm, which I don't think is a bad thing, but she just kind of
tried to hint at it a few times.
What did you think about that?
Is this it? Is this where it's going to happen?
Because I wanted to ask you about that. I was like, I was expecting something big, and she just kind of like, it's like road rash to the tire, and I'm like,
it's pretty bad though. I don't know.
Yeah,
like she gets in a sequence with Dementis where her arm is sticking out of her car, like she's low riding out on a Friday evening, and basically the tire from Dementis just absolutely tears it up. It's like it's barely hanging there at that point. So that's definitely how she loses it. I thought that was cool, and then. Jack is already injured, and they basically drag him around like
that was rough to watch.
Like Hector from Troy getting dragged around the city gates. I'm assuming they were kind of going to like a feel for that with the Iliad or something. But I thought it was cool. It's to show you, these two people actually like each other, and it's pretty sad. But then once again, George Miller's not going to dwell on it too long. And it shows you once again, it's that theme of survival. What will you do to survive? And it's her. I don't know if she nodded off or they don't show you. It's just the arm's just sticking there, right? So it's just. I'm assuming maybe she tore it off because, like I said, it looks like it's just hanging. So,
well, and like you said, sorry, Marco. Just to add, like what you were saying over there, like you don't sit with it too long. Like it happens, it's devastating, but the nature of the wasteland, like you've got to move forward. Like this is just what happens now. Marco, go ahead.
No, there's a part where you see like a figure slowly walk away, like stumbling away, and I noticed that, and I told my brother, I was like, "Is that her?" And then in the next shot, you see her arm just hanging. So I think that was sort of the point, like what you guys were saying, where it's just you got to do what you got to do to survive. Jordan Jack is already dead, so all she's just set even more on her vengeance. Yeah.
And then she goes back to the city, and once again, even though she only has one arm, still the best looking person there. And I mean, it just is like, no one notices this, huh? Best looking hair too.
Well, they obviously noticed it because they kind of looked at her and she's like, and they just said, okay, yeah, and brought her back up. And I'm like, because she just does not look like whatever those other folks look like down there.
No, they know her too. So they're like, oh, what happened? So. Yeah.
Well, I think there's also more to just her ripping her arm off as well, because that's also the arm that had the map.
Yep.
To her home.
Oh yeah. Huh,
so she has to make the conscious decision to, yes, I'm cutting my arm off, and yes, that's a crazy act, right? But you're also like losing your way to get home. You just promised your mom, however many years ago it was, saying I'm going to make it back there at some point. And you're chopping the map off to get back to your house, and you have to make that conscious decision to kind of do that. It's not like something that was easy for her.
I think if it was like 20 something years, she'd probably figure it out, like memorize it, right?
Memorize it.
Just saying.
They don't really talk much about that constantly. Like it happens, and I was thinking like with what's his name, Erectus, right? He was going. He noticed it one time, and then nothing is ever really brought up about it again. So I'm not sure what. If that was intentional or
I don't think he's the smartest guy, dude, either. So he might just have thought it was just like something like I don't know.
Like, what are these thoughts?
Yeah, he was not the sharpest tool in the shed.
And then we have Dr. Dementis, where he has a kind of drawn out ending, and it ends up being, it's a very interesting ending because you're not 100% sure on which one is the right one, on how he meets his fate. I'm going to go to you, Mikey. What did you think about seeing Dr. Dementis' kind of final scenes or how he ends up ultimately leading to his demise?
Well, I mean, they kind of say which one's the, quote unquote, real way to do it, right? So, I mean, he ends up being a tree, I think, right? What the old man is talking about, the narrator is talking about. And again, it's kind of like they don't really come out and tell you this here, but I mean, it's another sacrifice that she has to make, right? She has this seed that her mom gave her, said, hey, plant this. And she used it to basically end someone's life and still produce some more life for everybody else, right? So it's like this double meaning on stuff here. So everything at this end here is just like, I feel like it's just like a lot of stuff that if you weren't really paying attention or didn't think about some of this stuff, you could miss a lot of this stuff here. Like the movie doesn't come out and slap you in the face with it. It really just is like, hey, they had this seed and there's this tree. But it's really like, hey, she was told to keep this seed until, you want to make new life. So there's a lot more to it. And I didn't really even notice some of this stuff here until I thought about it after the movie. Like, it wasn't right away when I heard that or when I thought about that stuff. So
it kind of goes with like the lore of the whole Mad Max stuff, though. Like, it's still not even 100% sure that's what happened because, once again, these movies loosely connect, as you guys know. George Miller with canon is not good at doing things. He's like, whatever, I mean,
this is one of the few films that actually have a direct tie-in to each other, right? Between this and Fury Road.
It's like one of three things. The narrator's even telling you, like, some things they just shot him, dragged him behind, made him more torture, or they did the tree. It's really it's like a legend. It's like, who knows what really happened. So
that's true.
I think he says
even the Mad Max stuff is all like that. So
they do say, I think the one that's most believable, or the one that the historian saying believes the most, is the tree, though. So that's like the more popular one of all of them, which is,
but only she knows what really happened, I guess, technically.
But I think it's perfect for it, because here's this guy that took everything away from her. He took like so much life away, and so she's using him to basically make new life, and essentially making literally fruit of his loins, because it's coming out of his fucking crotch, and it's just the most intense pain as he's slowly getting devoured by like this tree's roots and shit. Meanwhile, it's allowing the people, I guess, at the Citadel to eat some fruit, and she thinks that for her moment, for where she is in life, that's like the best that she can do. I
liked his speech at the end too. He's, that's probably the most dialogue in the whole movie. Where he's gonna that's when he's, like Mark was saying, bringing up that they're the same, but she obviously doesn't agree to the full point of it all, and it shows you that gives you a little bit of hint of where he came from. Possibly, we don't fully ever know exactly what he did before the apocalypse or so, but that's a nice little end cap to it all.
Well, that's what makes him so interesting, like as a character, because it is to the point of everybody having their own background that led them to where they are. Like, they don't necessarily, it doesn't mean that he inherently was an evil person. At least at the start, he had a family. Something terrible happened to them. Maybe something similar to what he's doing now. Some other guy did some crazy, terrible thing, and he's living his life now this way, and he did something terrible to Furiosa's family. And, like, there's, it adds that layer of depth, and also can show you what this kind of, I guess, again, wasteland does to people in this new circumstance of life, of how you have to survive, is that you've got to be brutal, or so you may think that you have to be brutal in order to survive. Otherwise, you're not going to get somebody that's like being able to kind of go through it without having some kind of scar or trauma, that severe trauma happened to them. So you're going to have to go through it somehow. Yeah. Any other thoughts on any other spoilers in this film, or that we want to talk about, or any other plot points? That ending, is that actually Charlize Theron? Is that I think I thought it was maybe like a deleted scene that they showed tacked on at the end, where she's kind of going into the rig with the brides, because it kind of looked like her, just all her.
No, that's Hannah Taylor-Joy, bro.
Is it?
Yeah,
I thought it was Charlize. It was like a deleted scene that kind of got him in there.
No, it's still her.
Oh, that's cool.
That's why I was like that. That's why, once again, with the connecting things, I'm like, George Miller's like, okay, well, I mean, shouldn't she be older at this point? But I guess we're just gonna roll with it. Just she apparently, maybe that's a few years later. Who knows? I don't know, but
it could be.
Yeah.
Well, it would have to be, right, because they got fruit, so that tree would have to take some time to grow.
Yeah.
I thought that was just that was supposed to be from Fury Road 2, because that's when she escaped from the brides too.
That was like a deleted scene from Fury Road.
Yeah, only they used Anya Taylor-Joy because they didn't have Charlize Theron, obviously.
Because she's not going to work with George Miller again.
Sort of just refilmed it.
Okay,
it's leading up to the movie, basically. And I mean, it's credits shows you like, remember these scenes?
Here's the ladies. We put them in the truck. This is what's going to happen.
In case you didn't see the last movie, here's a quick cut of a couple scenes.
Yeah, super spoiler alert.
It was weird. I was like, I don't know if I can show this.
Watch it before you go.
Yeah, just end it right there, man. Yeah,
because if you're supposed to be telling it together, like, why show us the other film?
Because George Miller, that's why. He's 79, but let him go, okay? Goddamn, he doesn't know if other people saw it.
He's like, you should watch this one too.
As well as people think it did, by the way. So
no, I don't think it was like I think it made its money back, but I don't think it was
a decent amount, but it wasn't like groundbreaking. That's probably why it took 9 years to make another movie. But
All right. Well, so speaking of which, and as far as the box office for this film, now I haven't seen the numbers yet, but it doesn't look like it's making the. I think it was trying to make about 60 million, and last time I looked at yesterday, it was like maybe 30. If
31, 33, they're saying
yeah.
they were aiming for 45. I think really realistically.
So not too hot, and we obviously have already brought up that people should see this in theaters. But what do you guys think? Well, like what's hurting this film? Is it because it's rated R and with the Memorial Day weekend, like maybe not a lot of adults are wanting to go see this film because they want to see the other competition, Garfield, out over there? James, what, any thoughts on why this film might not be doing so well in the box office this weekend?
I mean, that's like a Pandora's box at this point. There's everybody. I mean, I don't know if people should always like go off of the first weekend on things too, because I mean, movies are made. They're art, man. Like they can have lasting things that can happen. Keep going, you know. And not every great movie has had great box office runs. I think there's a couple things. It's probably the rated R. See, once again, maybe, but then you look at other films from, and everyone's always quick to go death of cinema and all this bullshit. I don't buy that.
I don't know
because last year, I mean, the story's different when Oppenheimer and Barbie come out than, you know, shit like that, or fucking Wonka. You know, that's a prequel movie that absolutely killed, but that's also for families and such. But I'm just saying, if people have that whole like, oh, it's a prequel and blah blah, and I think Mad Max is not as popular as people thought it was overall. If you look at the numbers, it's considered kind of a niche kind of setup. I think the 9-year gap between two movies probably hurt it too. This should have come out 4 or 5 years after. I think it would have done way better, to tell you the truth. The fact that a lot of movies are just coming out now straight to streaming about 2 or 3 weeks later is baffling to me. I don't know why people aren't just sitting on it a little bit longer with things like that. Once again, look at Barbie and Oppenheimer.
I feel like they're trying to make that they think that people are going to buy it quicker.
They panic too quick, I think. I think they panic too quick now. They're like, oh fuck, it's not doing good. Let's release it VOD immediately.
I think it's a mixture of that, and they want to make their money back fast. Like they don't want to be patient with it. They want that return on investment like yesterday. It is. It's very stupid. It's almost like the same thing that happened with Indiana Jones. It was like a really good movie, and it didn't do too good in the box office. And it's like
people were hating on that though, even months in advance. So I'm not shocked about the Indiana Jones and the budget. And I think what we're seeing now is, it's not going to be the death of cinema. It's that people are going to be a little bit more weary about these huge blockbuster movies. These movies cost too much money, man. They need to
lower the budget of these films. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, there's been plenty of movies already this year that came out that have absolutely killed it. You know, the Kong vs. Godzilla or whatever absolutely killed it. And that was a big budget film. So it's the marketing for these certain films. And I think we're going to see less of these 150 million plus blockbusters going forward, because it's crazy that they are spending. I think we're in an era where they're spending too much on these films, and they need to just kind of bring it back down a little bit. This is not a normal thing. A couple years back, this is, you know, when we heard about big films, it was just these Marvel films and such, and people are trying to match up to them, and even those are hurting now. So I don't know. I could talk about this for a whole podcast, truth be told. So I think it's a couple things like that. So
you want to add something to this?
I don't even think it's that deep. I mean, I don't think people want to spend $30 to go to a movie nowadays when they can spend, you know, $20 a month on a streaming service and watch it later on at some point. It's too expensive to go out. I mean, me and James, you know, we go to the same movie theater that we complain about the sound all the time just because it's free movies because we have the pass, right? So it's, even us, we're taking, you know, like, I don't want to say a shortcut or whatever, but not everybody has those kind of passes that they can go and get movies tickets all the time. And if you're getting a drink and popcorn, you're literally spending $30 per person to go see it. And
but,
I can wait for VOD and just watch it at home for $15-20.
But to James's point earlier, you know, I think that they're panicking too much. Like that's fine if you want to watch it at home, but why are you allowing? Like, I enjoy having it out in 45 days and seeing it online personally, but realistically, as a studio, why are you doing that? Put it back to 60 days, 90 days.
Yeah, do it then, and then it's going to get people's mindset like, fuck, if I don't see it now, I got to wait 6 months.
Exactly.
And I think, truthfully, the ticket price has increased, but it's always been expensive to see a fucking movie, technically, even when I was a kid.
And you don't have to see it in
$30,
premium format.
man. It wasn't $30 back then.
Yeah, dude.
At least I don't remember.
Those
it being
premium
that much.
formats, though, you can still get a regular
premium.
ticket.
If you go for a normal, if you want to go on a Tuesday, it's still $12. So
Unfortunately, you gotta look at other factors there. Like, like the ticket prices, all right, maybe relatively haven't gone up as much, but everything else has gone up, and people are like thinking, am I gonna get groceries or am I gonna go see this movie? Am I gonna pay this electrical bill or am I gonna go see this movie? They're a lot.
My point is, if it's to that point, then I don't think those are the people buying the $25 VOD one either. Then. Right. If you're really struggling, like, oh, I gotta buy fucking food this week.
I mean,
like,
it is.
I think
because
it's $25
you're taking a movie, and that's $100.
Yeah,
as opposed to $20 at home.
Especially like if you're family 3 or 4. Yeah.
True, but once again, I look back on other movies that have absolutely killed it in the last year and a half. So people still go for certain ones, right?
Movies, though, is what I'm saying.
That's what I'm getting at.
So they're saying, it's just
exactly.
Yeah.
Then what I'm saying that this film itself is too niche of a movie. Then is what I'm getting at, right?
100%.
Because
100%.
if you want to go to a movie, like, let's face it, Star Wars, a new Star Wars coming out, I guarantee, or fucking Deadpool and Wolverine coming up. The story's going to change in a month and a half, guys. People are like, "Oh shit, movies are back." It's going to be, and then out of nowhere, I guess it didn't matter. I'm going to spend $30 fucking every time to bring my kid or fucking whoever to go see this movie, and it's not going to be an issue at all. Watch.
Exactly. I don't think
the headlines in a month and a half.
Yeah. They are over exaggerating. It's not the end of cinema. No, it's a mixture of that. Like, people are picking and choosing their movies. If it's something that they are familiar with and it's big and everybody knows and talk about it, they're gonna go see it. If it's something that's niche like this, unfortunately, as much as I love the fucking Mad Max movies, I know that if I ask 10 people right now about Mad Max, maybe 2 or 3 of them are gonna know what the fuck it is, and everyone else is gonna be like, "Fuck you talking?"
You're
about?
right. Because like, for instance, look at Dune Part 2, right? Dune Part 2 killed it. No complaints, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the top movies right now: Godzilla X Kong, Kung Fu Panda 4. That's wild for me, but Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Ghostbusters. These are the top 5 movies right now. All pretty familiar stuff too, right? Dune was a little bit newer, which is nice to see, right? It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But they all killed it. So it's just a matter of what kind of movie it is, or if it's part. What was that?
I said Kung Fu Panda 4 was actually pretty good.
Oh, was it? Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. But even lower budget films, there's certain ones that are, truthfully, Garfield's killing it right now, guys. So, and also the budget was way less. That's why. So just certain things like that. It's just, I think we're going to see less of them getting into these ones. And if they do make another Mad Max, it's going to be a lot lower budget. If they do tend to do it, and it's going to be something where they just got to be smarter with how they do things. And the way that George Miller films his movies is pretty chaotic from what I've heard. You guys are probably familiar with that as well. And, with a little bit more, with somebody maybe under the reins that knows how to maybe get these films in with a much half the budget, they could probably have done pretty well. So
I think also what you said, James, like, maybe don't wait so long on a sequel too. Like Dune, for example.
The 9 years hurt it, dude.
Yeah, what helped Dune also is it came out 2-3 years after the original.
Exactly, they timed it really well.
It didn't wait like a decade. So
I mean, it doesn't have the benefit of a Top Gun Maverick, which is a movie once again that everybody went and saw, right? Because that's always been one of those kind of cult classic films, and everyone knows what Top Gun is, and even Mad Max. I don't think my parents don't even know what Mad Max is, guys. To tell you the truth, so and I watched Fury Road with them, and it's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm like, yeah, this is like Mel Gibson's movies, but no idea. So, and I try to base a lot of stuff when I ask them things. And if my mom can't tell me what the hell like a series is, I'm like, this ain't going to do good. So that's all. I'm very passionate about theater watching. Sorry, guys.
Well, I was going to say bottom line is that you should, if there's a film that you're interested in, I go watch it in the theater for that experience. That's where you're going to go get the most out of it. If you're interested in it, you should go see it in the theaters. Maybe not wait. Even if you have a great setup at home, try to spend a little bit of money and patron that film at your local cinema, and you'll get the best experience there if you can. Yes, it's great to see it at home, and it's always an option available to you. And as we've talked about, we're doing over here, buying 4K physical releases to watch some of these films to help both for the experience, but also to add on to the sales of these films that keep the physical media alive. But definitely, anytime you're interested in anything, just spend the money towards it and go enjoy it. Don't wait or assume that something is going to come later, because you don't know what's going to happen later, or if they're even going to do more of the thing that you might have liked but just couldn't catch. Spend that time. But either way, the pals are going to be here. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to make sure that you at least hear our opinion on it. So there's that.
Yeah. We're not saying you got to see a movie every week. Like me and Mike can see a movie every week, but for the big ones that you actually care about, like, put your money where your mouth is, I guess. If you want to really
take advantage of those matinees if you're on a budget. Also, look at the free memberships for some theaters. Regal, after a while, like, you earn free tickets for regular movies as well too. There's deals on there. So I understand some people may be on a budget, but plan accordingly and see if you can support. Please do.
Yeah, and bring a purse and, just put some candy inside there. It's fine, guys.
I'm all food in, baby. Yeah, we sneaking food all the time.
Just toss it in your pocket. You're good.
Put the water bottle in the jacket. Sir, it's 110 degrees outside. A little cold.
Yeah, sweat it out. No, just do the jacket over the arm, and all your stuff's in the one arm, and you got the jacket. Just hold it. I know it's going to be cold in there. You seem like you're not moving that arm too much. Yeah, I just got 4 pounds of food.
It's just sweat bullets.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I get it. Like, I mean, I'm not saying like everybody should spend all that money. Obviously, everyone's got a budget. Like, just like even donating this stuff. Like, only do it if you can. Don't go if you can't. We're not telling you to. But there is a clear difference between a theater watch and a home watch, though. I will always say that.
Definitely.
Like, as much as you might think that your quality of stuff at home is good, I've seen people set ups and no, they are not good. A lot of people like to just think like, that seems okay. I mean, for you, I guess, but some people like. I've always been like that. You guys know, like, it's fucking annoying when you see like, oh, you got that motion thing on, huh? Holy shit! So, all right, guys, that's the end of the podcast. We appreciate you all tuning in. Marco, can you let everyone know how they can stay connected with us?
Of course, you can listen and follow us on your preferred podcast platform. We are everywhere. For a convenient link to all our social media channels, visit linktree/moviepalspod. That's linktr.ee/moviepalspod. And remember, hit that subscribe button and you'll never miss an episode in the wasteland.
And stay tuned for our next podcast episode number 176, where we will be reviewing the new horror film, The Watchers.
Thank you, Nabil. Until next time, this is James,
Marco,
Nabil,
and Mikey.
Have a great one.